We are back here on the show. It's John Pollock with you. Pleasure to be joined here by Johny Hendricks, who is getting set to take on Kelvin Gastelum. It's happening Saturday night, July 9th. UFC 200, a gigantic event, Johnny. And first off, I mean, you are typically used to being in the main event, in a big spotlight. And this is a show where it's just loaded with so many stars. Do you like the fact that it's not just on your shoulders here, out there promoting the fight and such? It's just such a loaded card that you can focus on your fight more so than just doing all the promotion, all the media that most of your events come with.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, instead of traveling 4 or 5 times to promote a fight, I only had to do it once. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? This card sort of promotes itself. There's a lot of good fights. Realistically, I'm happy to be on it. You got to think. Let's say there's 500 fighters, right? And there's only 10 fights. Mm-hmm. Or 11 fights, whatever it might be. So, all right, there's 20 to 22 people. So to say that I'm one of those 22, I'm super excited and very honored that I'm back on this card.
Was the timing as well perfect for you? I mean, you fought February. This seemed like this was a perfect opportunity for you to get on this card.
Yeah, no. I wanted to fight 3 times this year. That's why I'm glad I did February. And, now it's time to bounce back, get a win under the belt, and then move forward, and see where the end of the year can put me.
In Kelvin Gastelum, he's a very aggressive, hungry fighter at 170 pounds. When you got the call that it would be Kelvin Gastelum, was that a name you were anticipating? And what were your thoughts when you were offered Kelvin Gastelum, from your perspective and what it does for your career?
Kelvin, really, as soon as they told me, hey, this is who you're going to fight, I don't sit there and say no or yes. I'm just like, I sign it and send it off, right? It's never, I'm not going to argue or ask, really. And so whenever they said Kelvin Gastelum, I was sort of excited because, one, I know that he is a tough fighter. 2, he's coming off a loss as well. So am I. So if I can go out there and do good and get my hands raised, then I know that I'm getting a good Kelvin. That's coming off a loss, that's going to be trying, this I think is his 2nd loss in a row because he lost to Woodley and then Magny.
Yeah.
So this is going to be his best fight. So that's what I always strive for, is who am I going to get at their best moment? And right now it's going to be Kelvin. And how do I beat him? I beat him by doing this, this, and this. And that's really where my head's at is, I used to focus on 30 different things, right? Now I'm so focused on one thing and one person. It's actually been pretty nice, this camp.
Coming out of everything that happened with you in October, you changed a number of things about your camp around. How was the camp for Stephen Thompson? I mean, was it one where you went in feeling that I got the best out of these changes?
Okay, so I'm never going to take away from a fighter, okay? It was a good camp. Did it need a lot of work? Yes. I think we fixed those holes.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's also our first weight cut with Nutrition, Lewis. And that's a filling out process. You know what I'm saying? And really, me missing weight, as soon as we made weight, I felt all the weight lift off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. Because I missed it for the Woodley fight. And so really, probably 70% of everything I did was focused on the weight cut.
Yeah.
Stephen Thompson was secondary, which in return it shouldn't have been that way. You know what I mean? I should have been Stephen Thompson, then the weight cut. But with me missing weight, it was backwards, and that's my fault. And like I said, now I've learned from it. It's just one of those things. Now this is our 2nd camp together, our 2nd everything as a new. So I feel like this is going to be my rebirth to, hey, yeah, you had a bad one. It happens. But, I've fought, for 3 years, everybody in the top 5?
Yeah.
To say that I've only gotten beat got TKO'd by one person, that's not bad.
Who could be fighting for the title in his next bout as well. Have you started to look ahead? The fact that in Nevada now, for this card in particular, you'll have the earlier weigh-ins, and just the idea you can wake up and weigh in instantly. You don't have to stay drained that whole day, and the hope is that this will allow fighters to rehydrate so much more before their fights. Is this going to be a game changer, in particular for you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is because, really, we manage our weight to a certain point, right? And now that most of the time on Friday, whenever I wake up, I am at right around 172 at most. Mm-hmm. So I sit there and say, hey, I don't really need to cut weight because I'll float that pound by the time 4 o'clock rolls around. So now I can sit here and say, guess what? I can wake up at 71 or 70 and a half, literally walk down there, weigh in, go have breakfast, lunch, a mid-dinner, and a dinner. Where before, what we'd do is we'd weigh in at 4. We had to do all of our stuff. We wouldn't get back to the hotel until like 5:36. So you got to let your body adjust, crush water, because you only really have that night to refuel and do everything. So at 7 o'clock, 7:30, you'd eat a meal, but your stomach couldn't adjust to it. So you're sitting there going, okay, because it's been drained all day, right? So you have a little meal. And then by 12 o'clock, you're trying to eat again. So you're forcing food down your throat, where now I can literally wake up, weigh in, go have breakfast, and casually eat.
Right.
Where I'm not trying to, where I feel bloated, I can literally say, all right, I have 10, 12, 14 hours before I go to bed, because I'll go to bed right around 1 o'clock, Vegas time. So you're sitting here, okay, if I can weigh in at 8, that's going to give me a lot of time to sit there and snack, eat a meal, enjoy it, not rush. And I feel like sometimes what hurts me after a weigh-in is I rush so much, because you're like, I got to get as much food in me as possible to fuel me for the next day.
I also want to go back and just get any memories you may have of UFC 100, because it was a month before your UFC debut against Amir Sadallah. Do you recall it all, watching this gigantic event and thinking, man, that's going to be me in there a month from now, and just taking you back to a much earlier point in your career?
Yeah, no, I did. I remember being there. I remember seeing everything. I was like, wow, this is what we're getting into. This is what I'm getting into. If you look at everything that happened, the expo was bigger, the card was bigger, and you're sitting there going, well, if I'm ever in the UFC at 200, whenever they make that big deal, hopefully I can be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so who would have thought that 4 years later, 5 years later, you're going to be on the same exact card? Is pretty mind-boggling to me.
Last question. He just announced he's looking to make his return. A man you're no stranger to, and especially in this country, is George St-Pierre. Is that a rematch that you would like to have one day? Is that one that still kind of eats at you because of just the close nature of that fight in 2013?
Close?
Well, it was. I think it came down to that first round.
I'm just joking with you. Really? I thought it was 4-1. Even whenever I look back, I still give it 4-1. And I'll be lucky, and I'll even be generous. I'll give him 4-3 or 3-2.
3-2.
3-2. That's just being generous because he did what he did, and he was who he is. But yeah, I would be interested in, and we'll even go 185.
Oh, well, that looks to be the weight class he's coming back at.
Yeah, hey, that's perfectly fine with me. Hey, that means I get to be stronger, eat more. I love it. But, right now, my mind's not even on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I so many times in my career where I'm so focused on this, and then all of a sudden I get dragged to something like this. I tell GSP, like I said, from all my interviews, I have so much respect for him, for what he did. Let's leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stay away. There's no reason why you need to come back. You know what I mean? Let everybody remember who you were, not what you might become. Because like I said, if he comes back and let's say he fights Bisping or whoever, gets demolished, well, then everybody's going to be like, well, that's not then the new generation is going to see GSP as this, not what everybody has told them. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. Johnny, I want to thank you so much. Once again, he'll be taking on Kelvin Gastelum, UFC 200, Saturday, July 9th. It's probably the biggest card in UFC history. This man will be a part of it. And thank you so much for joining us, Johnny.
Thank you.